Well, today we're here in Cirencester. We're heading back to London today. We noticed there's a shelter, an air raid shelter, so we thought we might have a look at it today. And that's our first port of call.
We used to live in London.
Look. This is interesting.
Yes. Last time I saw him in Black Week.
Your grandparents were
And a friend of mine
art,
used to be
weren't
his
they?
agent.
Yes, they were.
You've still got the ARP whistle, haven't you?
Somewhere Mum's got
I
it.
think it's in the memory box. It's in your memory box, darling. Interesting, isn't it? This model shows the effect a high explosive bomb would have fallen on a neighbourhood. We have bomb disposal men at work along with the National Fire Service. These workers are supported by the Salvation Army Red Shield T-Wagon and the local residents by the emergency food tanker. They're being recorded by the BBC outside the broadcast van. The model illustrates how the damage around the original impact is most severe. That's the model. Your granddad did a clear up, didn't he?
Yes, his factory was bombed.
Twickenham.
Yes, it's the AMD factory on the corner of Marble Hill Park.
What
It's
year was
flat.
that, Dan?
Probably in 41, 40,
Was it?
that sort of time.
Okay.
Yes, and he's lucky he wasn't working that day.
My mum was born during air raids. My nan was still in Slough at that point. And my mum was born in a private maternity home in Windsor. The lights were very low because there was bombings going on. That was November 1940. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Cockpit display.
It says at 14:25 on Thursday, July 5th, 1940, Pilot Officer Charles Alec Bird, a member of RAF Campbell's Defence Flight, took off in Hurricane P3271 to engage with an enemy intruder. The hurricane, which had gained height, came into attack from the stern. Above the drone of the enemy's engines came the sound of cannon fire. Then the hurricane appeared to collide with the rear of the German Junkers Ju-88 bomber. Moments later, the German was heading in a steep, spiralling dive, parachutes coming away from it along with pieces of wreckage. The German pilot recalled that one of the gunners, Steiner, shouted out a warning of fighter attack, and seconds later the aircraft stopped as if struck by a giant hand. As for the hurricane, it too came down in an uncontrolled spin to be destroyed as it hit the ground, killing Pilot Officer Bird. All but one of the German crew of fire survived. Their aircraft crashed in fields near Oak Ridge.
Here's an Avro Lincoln model. Press here to
That
start.
was quite a tale, wasn't it?
Yeah. It seems to have an engine failure.
Yes, there's one engine.
Number 3 engine or number 2 engine, depends which side you're counting from, isn't running. So I don't know if that picked up on the film.
Making a film, are we?
Yes, they put it on YouTube.
That's all right.
Thank you.
It's really interesting. We've still got Dan's grandparents' ARP whistle, and his granddad helped clear up the factory that got bombed in Twickenham.
Yeah.
The factory where he
That
worked.
always worries me about Dad's Army. I mean, I love the programme, but Bill Pertwee gets a bad press as the AP one. But they started in 38.
Yeah.
You know, Dad's Army didn't start till 40.
No.
And for end of 44, Dad's Army was more or less finished. Christmas 44, they stood down because the war was nearly over.
Yeah.
But the ARP went on after that.
Yeah.
And it was, the trouble was, in 38, especially here in Cirencester, they put all the gas masks together and delivered them all, made sure everybody got one and you had to use it.
Yeah.
And made sure they got their blackout.
Yeah.
And then nothing happened. They had nothing to do, only walk around the streets and tell people, put that light out.
Yeah.
And of course they got a bad press.
Yeah.
until they all kicked off in 40s.
Yeah, yes it did, yeah.
And then I was born at the end of 43 and Hitler gave up then.
Yeah.
That's what I used to tell the children when I was teaching.
Well, thank goodness he did give up as well, eh? Yeah, it's very interesting though.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a whole different world. It really was.
Yes.
A whole different world.
I do a lot of World War II cooking. I've got some of the Marguerite Patton books, from that period. So I do a lot
Have
of
you been over the
1940s
road, the
cooking.
other part of our exhibition?
Not yet, we've only just got
I
here.
think Peter's just done a new wartime cookery book.
Oh, all
recipe
right
book.
then. Okay.
And we had a lady in here last week, and I think it was her grandfather had been in Burma during the war. And he was a cook.
Yeah.
And he brought home his recipe book, which he'd used as a diary. So he got all his wartime recipes and whatnot. Anyway, she thought he was dead now, but she thought he hadn't been given everything he should have had, like the Burma Star. Like so we had a real expert here Sunday afternoon. So I sent her across to him, and he went through it with her and gave her information how to get the rest of his badges, and arm flashes,
that's brilliant.
medals and whatnot. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
It was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
The other Bill, he's a real expert.
Oh yeah, you're all experts in your own field.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can remember my father sitting there. That was before we moved out of the back street, because I grew up in a Victorian back street.
Yeah, I lived in one as well.
Yeah, 2 up, 2 down, and 1 out the back.
That's right. Yeah.
And my father was a Londoner. My mother came from Cheshire, so we were talking about Cheshire. And the local chap used to turn up with a rabbit occasionally, and I can remember he had spit in the buckshot out. My father always got the buckshot. But no, my mother was a good cook. Wartime songs were either sentimental or funny.
Yes. Yeah, well, it helped to keep spirits up as well. A bit of humour.
I've got a friend, well, he's dead now, but his wife hated the song "We'll Meet Again" because they didn't.
Oh, how awful. We've got all these. Maintenance of an ample supply of blood for transfusion purposes is highly important, and the hospital's blood bank is efficiently operated by Tech 3 Daniel M. Jackson, Tech 4 Fred L. Curler and PFC Richard Noland. And look at these, look. The Registrar's Office.
Well, this was the
Is your journey really necessary? That reminds me of the convict period. But, I mean, the war, it was like far more dangerous. You could step out your front door and get bombed. So this is a home front exhibition. So we'll have a look. We've been down the shelter, so we'll have a look here.
It just grows into bits.
This is nice. This is the hospital, and this hospital, the gentleman in the shelter was saying, was pulled down during COVID. It was hoped that the building had listed status, but when it was discovered that it didn't have listed status, the council decided to pull it down and put this new car park here. It seems such a shame. It started way back then in 1875.
That's frontage there.
Obviously more of a cottage hospital, but it was used as a general hospital.
We started collecting things anyway because it...
A tribute to Cirencester's Jewish defenders. These curtains were used in one of the anterooms of the Congregational Church in Dyer Street. This room was given over to the Jewish refugees who came to Cirencester during the war to use for their religious worship. The curtains themselves served to shield the scriptures from the view of the congregation when they were not in use. Interesting. Oh, look at how cute that dog is. Look at this.
Yeah.
When would Britain come into the factories? Invasion, a meeting. Gosh. More Home Guard stuff. And the fire service and the police service. Look at all the propaganda. Arthur Moe, National Service needs you. Do you remember the First World War? Your country needs you.
No, Kitchener, yeah.
Yeah, and digging for victory. Everyone was encouraged to grow fruit and vegetables during the war.
Oh, yes, they used to dig up parks.
Yes, and those with eggs didn't get an egg ration and were expected to hand over most of the eggs.
Yeah.
Everyone was expected to pull together during the war effort, and it was actually a criminal offence to waste food. Everything had to be used, so you either ate it or it went out for pig swill. Some people kept pigs, or for compost. You couldn't waste anything, everything had to be used. If you were found to waste food, you could be hauled before the courts. Look at the fancy jug and the cups. That would probably be what, the National Fire Service?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. I didn't realise they had their own cups and glasses and jugs. That's interesting. And they all had a war record book. Everyone had record cards. And then you've got the gas masks as well. Did you know anybody who'd been evacuated?
No, I don't.
No, I didn't either. Mum wasn't evacuated.
Yeah, Bill at the museum, he used to be in the Home Guard, and he used to have training up on the old Grove Road station, which was, you can see as you're descending into Hammersmith on the District line or Piccadilly line, you can see a viaduct going up. That used to be the link line round to Paddington. And there's the disused station, and he used to have his training up there.
This shows 1 week's ration for an adult. It's not a lot, is it? Quantities varied for some of the items depending on how much there was available, such as this, cheese and fats. In times of plenty there was more quantity in the ration, and there was a small amount of meat as well, and they would get monthly rations as well. Sometimes meat was only 4 ounces a week, but then they had rations of bacon as well. Sausages weren't rationed, but they were hard to come by. I know my food history.
Yeah, meat didn't come off the ration until 1954.
1954.
Yeah.
That was the last thing to come off ration. Sugar was 53.
Yeah.
Meat
They
was
took
54.
sweets off in, I think it was 48, and then put them back on again because of the sugar shortage. You know, I couldn't remember going to get the ration from my older brother.
I was told to ask you about the tea bag.
This tea bag, what's a Dutch thing on it.
Oh,
And what it
yes.
was, I had a phone call.
Yes.
It was breakfast time on a Sunday. And the voice on the other end of the phone said, "Would you like a tea bag?"
Yes.
I said, "Well, excuse me, what's this about? You know, I just had my breakfast." And it was a chap from Radio Gloucestershire, because sometimes they get in touch with us. He said this man had gone into their studio. He came from Cheltenham, and he'd been on Lancaster bombers during the war. And what happened at the end, near the end of the war, the Germans were still in Holland, but they knew that their time was limited, and the Dutch were starving. I mean, they were cooking daffodil bowls and things like that, which is extremely dangerous. So anyway, the British government made an arrangement with the Germans to say, look, we'll send these aircraft over without bombs, but food, and they called it Operation Manna. And so they flew over, and this should have been dropped in Holland, but he kept it as a souvenir.
Oh wow!
Yeah. I mean, it's more than one bag. It's a pot full.
Yes, it is definitely a pot full.
And I had a family came in and they translated that for me. So that, yeah.
That's really interesting. Wow. That's nice to have.
Yeah. Oh, and he said to me, if you'll talk to me about Operation Man at 10:30 tomorrow morning on the radio, you can have the tea bag.
Oh.
So that's how I got it.
Oh, brilliant. I had a pair of Price's dinner candles that belonged to my nan, and they were from the 1940s. And I did try to sell them on eBay. I was going to give them money to charity, but they wouldn't sell. So I gave them to the 1940s house in Sittingbourne, because we live in Kent. So I donated them there. But they were in perfect condition. And my nan, because she was a housekeeper, had written some things in pencil on the back. You know, shillings and pence, you know.
It's like the lady who came down the shelter and said to us, would you like some fruit?
Yes.
And we said, oh yes please, and she came with this massive red box all these Kilner jars. They were bottled in 1944.
Oh my goodness, that's incredible. I used to have one of those fish kettles, but I sold it, and I've got quite a bit of enamel, like mugs, because I collect vintage enamel, and the barrel utility I collect, that's our dinner service. My nan had one at Mangle as well. In fact, it was my job on Monday was always wash day, and she had one of these big dolly tubs that she'd wash her whites in, and it was my job to put them through the Mangle. That was one of my jobs.
I'm in trouble for this. There was a man came in one day and he said he'd been asked to clear a house out near Tetbury. It belonged to somebody called Lady Dill. Well, I'd never heard of this lady, but he said I was supposed to burn everything. He said, but I kept a few interesting things. Would you be interested? Would you like them? I said, oh yes please. I said, if they're worth anything I won't tell you. Anyway, and he produced these things. And this is a telegram from one of the generals about moving Randolph Churchill, that's you know, Churchill's son, from Crete where he was. This one is from Churchill himself, saying he can stay where he is.
Wow.
He really felt a lot about his son, I think.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You've got so many.
And I found out also there's one, the next one, this one here. This has got his monogram. This is Sir John Dill, who was either the husband of this Lady Dill or the father.
Oh, okay.
He was the chief of the Imperial General Staff.
Oh my goodness.
And he died at the end, just after the end of the war, I think it was. But he'd been sent to America near the end to deal with the government in Washington. And he died while he was still over there, and he's buried in Arlington Cemetery. And there are only 2 equestrian statues in that cemetery, and one of them is his.
Wow.
So he must have been pretty important.
He must have been. Wow. These are fab thing to have, isn't it? I mean,
this is also little bits of postal stuff and things that, you know. There was a lady who used to be at a flea market, and she because when I was teaching, I was collecting this stuff because it was on the national curriculum, and she used to save things from house clearances that she wasn't interested in. Really. And there's one interesting document. It doesn't look very interesting, but it's an estimate. We used to have 2 railways here. One over the road, the old railway station, which is going to be sold when they sell this place. And we had another one on the other end of the town called Watermore Station, and that was on the Cheltenham to Southampton line. And the only way you can tell where that station was now is you go down by the fire station, and there are these concrete blocks about this high, and they're tank traps that the Home Guard put in along the platform and then as far as the railway bridge. And this is the estimate for removing them at the end of the war.
wow.
But they're still there. So the estimate wasn't accepted. The thing,
I'm not surprised.
what makes me laugh is it says, make good the platform, 2 shillings. 10p. Family photograph of this very high-ranking German officer with his family. He stood behind the settee and the 5 children and his wife on the front, and he had this very posh armband on. And I thought, he looks special. Anyway, after, to cut a long story short, after I'd done a lot of investigation, I discovered that he was the Gauleiter of Innsbruck, which, you know, like the ruler, and he was also governor of part of Carinthia.
Oh, crikey.
And these photographs, including when he was taking on Goebbels, you know, taking him round an art gallery in Salzburg. And there was another one in a room where it was bit like a dance hall type room, but and there was a raised dais there, and there's Adolf stood on it, you know. So I've done investigating, so I sent copies to the Imperial War Museum because, you know.
Yeah.
It turned out this fellow was an Austrian, though. He wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't German, and he didn't like the idea of Germany ruling Austria.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Hitler was Austrian.
He
as
was,
well.
yeah. What makes me laugh at him, he was I mean, he was all for the pure Aryan race, which was tall and blonde. He was short and black haired.
I know.
One of the German prisoners, we kept in touch with him until he died. He was a chap called Karl Geilen, and he was only 19 when he was captured in the Battle of the Bulge. And he was a clerk in the post office in Hamburg, and they just came in one day because they were getting hard up for and said, right, off you go. So he had to go, and he said he fired a typewriter most of the time he was in there, he said. But they went to the Battle of the Bulge, and he was sent down there, and he said they were with there was a young lieutenant, very young lieutenant, and him and 5 others, and they had this funny little anti-tank gun. He said it was useless, and they were surrounded in this village. The Americans came surrounding it, and they thought, well, it was just before Christmas, it was freezing cold, and they thought, well, we've had it, you know. But then this young officer, he said, look, he said, if we can get out in the village into the woods, he said, no, we might be all right. And then for some reason, the Americans pulled back. So they took advantage of this and went into the wood. And they found an old barn that had no roof on it, was just the walls, you know. And he said that was enough shelter for the night. So they bedded down there, and they took it in turns to stand in the doorway on guard. And he said he was stood there, and he said a beautiful moonlit night, but very cold. And he heard this creaking noise. And he looked up, and there silhouetted against the sky was this mobile gun. And the barrel was doing this. He said it was just as though he was looking for us. And so he shook this up and said, look. So they got everybody awake. And this young fellow, this lieutenant, said, right, gentlemen, he said, tomorrow morning, he said, for us, the war is over. So they surrendered. He ended up, first of all, painting bombs in an American camp in the Forest of Dean. But we kept in touch with him, and eventually he was in Hamburg during the firestorm when, you know, thousands of people were killed in one night. And but he never held it against the RAF. He said because they'd had a drought for about 3 months. Everything was tinder dry, and it was the incendiary bombs caused the trouble, not high explosives. And they set light to the buildings in the old dock area, which were medieval timber buildings. And they just went, and where you got the old part, and then coming into that, you got these big blocks of flats. And so it acted like a blast furnace. The draft came through, and he said there was nothing that could be done.
Gosh.
But yeah, so he didn't. Eventually, he went back to Germany at the end of the war. No, when it was 1948. In fact, his parents didn't know he was alive until 1946. And anyway, so he went back to Hamburg and became a Lutheran pastor. And he was in charge. He was in charge of a children's home to start with. Then he went back to Hamburg, and he took out. He was attached to one of the main churches there. But his church was a barge in Hamburg docks, and he looked after all the barge people from the Eastern Europe. And we went over there for holidays, and he came over here 2 or 3 times. Yeah, and it was quite nice, you know. And in our house, when we were very small, I mean, there were 3 German prisoners who used to come. There was the chief nurse from the American hospital, one of the American hospitals in the park, and a couple more ordinary GIs who used to babysit for me and my brother. There was a Dutchman, a Czechoslovakian, New Zealander, And they could all be in the house at one time if it we were brought up, there was no difference between any of them, you know. And it was quite interesting. Because it's one of the German prisoners called Willie. He's been at Stalingrad, and his hair was completely white. And I thought he was very old, but he was 35. He didn't talk to me about it, but he told my dad about, you know, this. It was shock there, of course.
It can do, yeah.
And his parents had owned hotels over in Berlin.
Yeah.
When he went back home, they were all living in one cellar. He did manage to send some post to us for a little while, but he was living in the French zone, and eventually his post had to go to the Russian zone, and they just turned it back, you know. So we lost touch with him. But,
what a shame.
but my brother was like 14 months older, and we used to play soldiers like children do. You know? And we come in, William be sat in his chair, and we come in, you're a German, we're going to shoot you. They produced those to make it look as though life was normal. You know, post went in and out with it. Those are propaganda stamps, British propaganda. If you look, the ones on the left are actually the proper ones. But if you look at it's got a different thing on it. And if you look, his jaw's like a skeleton's jaw. I don't know what the purpose of that was, because the Germans did the same to us. There was, for 1935, for the coronation, they produced a stamp like these long ones here. For the coronation, it had the king's head on that side and the queen there, and the Russians took the queen's head off and put Joe Stalin in. And the ends, their little cylinders are made from bolts.
Wow, they're really nice.
Frank Whittle's fire.
That's really good.
Actually, it's quite an interesting looking thing, isn't it? I mean,
It is, yes.
that mottled finish, it would sell well on bargain hunt, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would actually. It would sell very well on bargain hunt.
When you walk, instead of having clogs, you know, with the solid thing, that's,
So you've got some flexibility.
yeah. And it turns out they were made by Clark's.
Really?
It's got we did a thing in the Abbey grounds, and I cleaned that off there, and you can, and the right light, you can see it's Clark's. I mean, I don't know what that heel's made of. It looks like concrete.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
But this is, I think, these things you could get you'll get those. Like, there's a big one here. And the idea was you bought them in Woolworths, and if you walked a bit, you know, to one side and your heel would wear down, what you did, you just turned it round.
Oh.
And of course, if people who manufacture shoes don't want you to do that.
No. What a good idea.
And that's the little, I don't know, that must have been for a lady's heel, I would imagine.
They're really well made as well. Look how solid they are.
They had fur lining originally.
Wow.
Yeah. And she gave me
incredible.
That, what do you call it there, that Bakelite, wool, that's a wool winder, where you put your wool in there and you can pull it, and in there is the remains of a jumper that was taken to pieces. And the silk stockings in the kiln jar, that's how you preserve the silk stockings, everything.
You keep them in a jar.
That was given to me, well, the same lady gave it to me, but it was given to her by, this lady was chairman of our governors at school, and her name was Fanny Hugel, but she was Lloyd Webber's first mother-in-law.
Oh, right, really?
I mean, I don't know how many mothers-in-laws he's had
No,
since.
I don't know.
Yeah, because when Joseph and his technical and whatnot came out first, the children at school, they performed it in the village church. Yeah, that's an interesting piece of equipment. Because that motor is built onto there, but I mean, the rest of it is like the old Singer type thing, isn't
We've got a semi-industrial Singer from about 1956.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering whether that's what that could be.
It looks like a
You've got an electric foot pedal.
We've got an electric
The only trouble is when you press the thing to make it go faster, the light goes down.
Yeah.
but if you look at the base, it's got the holes there where a treadle thing used to come through, you know.
Yeah. Sometimes they were adapted.
Yeah. I think that's what it must be, because it's a different name on here.
Yeah.
But it's obviously was put on there originally.
The sewing machine's Vesta as well. So it's the same name. Interesting.
Perhaps I'll get round to sort of investigating a few things while we've got it all in store.
Maybe, yes.
I'll have to check on all the cataloguing because we've had stuff brought in that, you know.
Brilliant.
Our German rifle there, which was, that was given for National Savings Competition.
Blimey. Really?
It's First World War one, yeah.
Wow.
I had a fellow rang me up once, he was the governor of one local primary school, very far back voice, and he said, I'm going into school, he said, to talk to these young chaps about D-Day, and I believe you could loan me some kit. I don't know who told him that, but anyway, I said, well, what do you need? And he said, I should need a uniform. I said, well, I've got a battle dress blouse that was actually worn on D-Day. I said, but the trousers would be much too long for a primary school child. Anyway, I said he could borrow that, and then we went through a whole list, and when he got to the end, he said, and of course I shall need a rifle. I said, well, we haven't got a British rifle. I said, we've only got a German one. I said, that, you know, and he said, and I said, there are all sorts of regulations to what you can do with these well, it's not a reproduction, it's original, but it's been disarmed. And he said, oh, why is that? He said, I saw a rifle at 303 at the auction. He said, you know, I said, no, it's nothing to do with that. I said, we keep what money we've got. I said, in the Coventry Building Society. And if I went into the Coventry Building Society waving my gun around, they wouldn't know there was a piece of rod welded down the barrel, would they? In the end, I promised it. I said, if you promise me you won't let it out of your sight, you can borrow it. So that's what happened.
Nice baby, aren't you? You are a nice baby. Fox face. Well, that was very interesting. We weren't expecting to see a Second World War living museum. We were going to head down to the cathedral. We still might look around there now. However, the first thing to do is get a coffee because I'm parched and it's a while since breakfast, and we've spent the best part of 2 hours chatting to the lovely volunteers who run this fabulous museum. Well worth a visit if you're in Cirencester, and the air raid shelter and the hospital cottages are open. Do go and have a look. It's brilliant and it's free entry. Unfortunately, the council have given the museum notice to quit the hospital cottages by the 13th of November, so they're in need of new premises. I don't know what the situation is, but anybody in the Cirencester area who can step up with maybe 1 or 2 propositions or options, I am sure it would be very much appreciated. It would be a shame if all this amazing knowledge was lost to future generations. Dan bought me a cookery book of Second World War recipes. It was only £2. It's just a typed up book in a ring binder, really interesting, and I will enjoy doing a few of those because, as some of you may know, I like my 1940s cookery. So we've come into Costa for a piece of cake and a coffee. Dan's got a herbal tea, and we're going to have a chat now and decide what to do. So Dan, where do you fancy going next?
There's always the cathedral, isn't there?
Shall we have a look at the indoor market as well?
Let's have a look at the indoor market, see if we can find any bargains.
There's also an esoteric shop I'd like to go to, which is in the marketplace.
Which sounds very good. We're going there.
Going in the corn hall now. It says Cornwall. It's lost its HA. There's a tea shop there as well, diversity. That's a good play on words. And we'll see what they've got in here. This is a wool shop. Lamb's wool, sheep's. That's merino wool socks. They're nice, they are. 2 to 5. That's my size. Goat wool. Hot water bottles. These are nice. These keep your head warm in the winter, they're head warmers. You just put them on like a hairband. Nice, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've got a fleecy lining as well, so it stops your head from scratching. Isn't it? That's a seat. It's like a stool with a cover on. Nice leather. Gorgeous. Baker boy cap. I've got my stepmom's baker boy cap that my dad gave her. My stepsisters gave me that hat shortly before she passed away. I'll be wearing it this winter. This is like this cloth market.
Yeah, in the Cornhall.
I like them.
What have they got?
They've got broomsticks there, they've got scissors, they're cute. I like, the compasses are nice, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's a planet.
Yeah, winged planet.
But Saturn,
Yeah.
that's rather nice, isn't it? You've got quite a lot to choose from. They're pretty as well. Oh gosh, I'm spot for choice. We've got cats there as well.
Very nice
Maybe
stuff.
I should get cats.
Yes, that looks very nice.
Yeah, that's probably a me earring, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll have.
Yeah, a mouse on there, yeah.
And that's nice as well. It's obviously what all the oaks are. He obviously does it. Wood turning's quite an art.
Yeah. Here we are looking at the posh shops.
Yeah.
Which is knickers.
I love that name. It doesn't look very witchy, does it?
No.
I like the name though.
Yeah.
It's disappointing that there's not much witchy stuff in the shop.
Yes.
Now this is my kind of shop. Cotswold blue wines. Look at that with the hair on. That looks awesome.
Bread.
Oh yeah, so you go through to the wine.
Yeah. Bread and wine.
So look in.
Yeah.
You know, with the crops that are caught on. That, I could just eat it now.
Looks very nice. There's some Jeremy Clarkson beers there. There's some cheese.
Oh, this looks amazing.
Very nice.
Got a sausage roll. Gorgeous.
That's nice.
Oh, berry curry. Cured meat. What's got in it? Gluten-free, soy-free, lactose-free.
All very good for you.
I can't persuade you.
And that was the Cornhall Deli. It looked very nice.
It looks amazing. Look at these. Lovely totes, £35 each, all handmade. Cakes and bread. Get a coffee from there. Aprons and tote bags. Look at those. That's the cathedral. More food. Yum. Clothes. Honeys. Lots of honey. And lovely smelly soaps and wow. Some of those honeys were more expensive than the ones from Diddley Squat. I noticed one was over £13. Look at all this thing. All these things. Look at all these. Plain white plates. Everybody used to use white plates at one time for dinner parties. Now most people use something a bit more rustic. Rustic is more popular these days. They're nice. They're really pretty, those ones. Big teapot. I need one of those. Oh, I've got a Cornish ware one. That's at least as big as that. The bowls, look at the bowls. They'd hold a big salad. You've got new things, handcrafted things, and second-hand vintage things. That's a very pretty bowl. I don't know how much that one is. Isn't it lovely, that one? It's really nice. I like that. There's no prices on anything. I don't like that. Look at the plants, these are nice. Really pretty plants here. These brighten up a dark corner or even the bathroom. These are very pretty, those bouquets. It's a sign, is it, how much they are? £12. That's nice, isn't it, for £12?
They'll be fresh when you get them home if you're travelling, because they're in water.
They're beautiful. They're lovely. And more honey. Reasonably priced, yeah. Reasonably priced. Very nice. The heather's nice as well.
Yeah.
Isn't it? That's something to put outside. Isn't it? Some lucky heather. Hairs. This is West Market Place. We're going to walk down here. We're still thirsty. We've been busy today. You need to stay hydrated, remember, when you walk. Even if you're walking around a town or a city, you don't realise how many steps you're doing because there's so much to see. And it's easy to become dehydrated. This smells nice. I can smell all the crystal-y, incensey smells.
Lifting, actually.
Oh, it's gorgeous, isn't it? Simply crystals.
That's why.
I cannot resist a shop like this. Look at that. That crystal ball, look at it. Rose quartz, beautiful. What about that? That looks like a planet, that one in the corner there.
Planets.
They do, don't they? Do you see all the inclusions?
Yeah.
That's anything like, it can be like a black spike, or it can be opaque bits or shiny glittery bits inside the stone. Those are nice, those pendulums. I need a new one. No, it's mine is single.
Oh yeah, my little helmet.
And it tells you before. Look at those. I love my crystals. We're in the Crown, around the corner from the cathedral. It's a nice little pub. The one thing about Cirencester is the people are really friendly and they take cash or card. And the customer service is really good, friendly, and I love the architecture here. I love the shops. The drinks aren't that expensive really. It's about £8.60. I've got the local beer.
I've got half a Diet Coke because I'm driving.
It's nice and smooth. It's 3.7 ABV. And it's called River Churn. Cirencester is in Gloucestershire, but it's not that far from River Churn. It's the name River Churn. It's the local beer. And they let me try it before we bought it. It had a 1.5 fingers carbonation. It was a little bit more than 1 finger carbonation, but it wasn't quite 2 finger carbonation. It's a lovely straw, deep straw, gold, almost amber colour, and it's nice, smooth finish on the palate. It's very drinkable. You can drink it on its own. It would also go well with a ploughman's, or a pie, or a Scotch egg, any basket really, or anything cheesy. It's a treat. It's got a lovely hoppy flavour. I could easily drink another half, but it's lunchtime and I am trying to watch my figure. Although we have done a lot of walking, I don't seem to put any weight on. But we're having fish and chips this evening, so I'm trying to keep enough room in the old tum-tum for that. Otherwise, if I drink too much of this, I won't want any fish and chips. And that would be a travesty, because Dan's mum's local chippy is rather a good one, down in Hull. So I don't want to miss that opportunity. So cheers.
Cheers.
Well, here we go again. This cathedral is also shut for sightseeing. The other day in Tewkesbury, the abbey was shut because they were having a funeral. And this one today is shut for sightseeing down here in Cirencester. So it looks like our trip has now come to an end, and we will be heading down the motorway back towards Kew. We've had a lovely time in Cirencester, and we hope to be back again soon.
Yeah.
Bye for now.
Bye.